Maybe Gibson's Braveheart? Whatever the answer is, chances are, despite earning $500 million worldwide, Wolfgang Petersen's Troy isn't likely the first movie that tops the list. But why? After all, Troy was not only a monumental box office hit, but it also fared pretty well among critics and general filmgoers alike. Moreover, with Homer's timeless tale of the Iliad guiding the way, it would seem as though Troy would resonate longer in the public's collective consciousness and rank among the all-time best and most durable biographical epics. Yet, despite the impressive size, scale, and scope of the big screen spectacle that chronicles the intense war between the Greeks and the Trojan army, Troy has sort of been forgotten at best and relegated towards the middle of the heap at worst, with titular star Brad Pitt voicing his own displeasure with the picture. Aside from Pitt's own misgivings with the final outcome, we are about to delve deep into the production history for Troy and document everything from the development phase and the casting process to the troubled intercontinental film shoot that was marred by inclement weather, destroyed sets, emergency relocation, injuries delays, tragic fatalities, on-set arrests, exploited background extras, and other unforeseen mishaps that led to Troy becoming one of the most expensive Hollywood movies in history. Does that sound good? Good, because we are about to find out once and for all what the happened to Troy. As alluded to, Troy is loosely based on the epic Greek poem The Iliad by Homer. The screenplay was written by David Benioff, who deliberately set out to expand the story beyond the parameters of Homer's classic poem. One of Troy's most common criticisms is that the ambitious reach may have exceeded its grasp by depicting the entirety of the Trojan War, whereas The Iliad covered just a portion of it. Benioff took issue with this gripe, telling Creative Screenwriting, "The script covers the Trojan War in its entirety, whereas the Iliad is only one fragment of it. I didn't want to have little titles saying flash forward 9 years. It would have made it more faithful to the source material, but it wouldn't have been effective for the movie. I always followed the route that I thought was better for the movie. If that meant that I was cheating on Homer, then so be it." Once Benioff finished the script, Warner Bros. Sought to hire the right director for the material. Before Wolfgang Petersen was hired, Christopher Nolan was offered a chance to direct Troy. So too was Terry Gilliam, but he turned it down after reading 5 pages of the screenplay. In the end, Petersen left his early directorial duties on Batman vs. Superman to make Troy. Petersen was interested in Troy because he was familiar with the Iliad from school. Ironically, Petersen was offered the chance to direct Gladiator a few years earlier, but not interested at the time. Once he saw Ridley Scott's award-winning result, Petersen regretted the decision to not make the sword and sandal epic. And as such, when Troy presented itself, Petersen was keen on making the movie after passing on Gladiator. Brad Pitt was Petersen's first choice to play the lead role of Achilles, Greece's most fearless warrior. We'll touch on this later, but Pitt only agreed to make Troy out of the contractual obligation he had with Warner Bros. Furthermore, Pitt left Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain in order to star in this movie. While Pitt was Petersen's one and only choice to portray Achilles, casting Helen of Troy proved to be much more difficult. At first, Petersen did not want to include the character of Helen in the movie at all, as he felt that no living actress could live up to the historical image of Helen. In fact, Petersen left out several Greek gods from the story, believing they were, quote, silly and unnecessary to the plot. When the producers insisted that Petersen include Helen in the story, the director caved and began a 6-month casting process to find the right person for the role. Although such actresses as Halle Berry, Keira Knightley, Kristen Kruk, Jennifer Lopez, Sophie Marceau, Connie Nielsen, Katie Holmes, Charlotte Kemp-Mull, and Catherine Zeta-Jones were all considered to play Helen of Troy, in the end, Petersen deliberately opted to cast an unknown actress in the role. The director finally settled on German actress Diane Kruger to play Helen of Troy. As for the role of Briseis, Achilles' lover in the film, the part was originally given to Bollywood actress Aishwarya Rai Bachchan. However, she declined the role due to her discomfort with the graphic lovemaking scenes. Although Keira Knightley auditioned for the role, it was Eric Bana, who plays Hector in the movie, who suggested fellow Aussie actor Rose Byrne for the part of Briseis. While Byrne was also a relatively unknown newcomer at the time, she and Kruger would go on to forge outstanding Hollywood careers. Speaking of Bana, he was cast after Petersen saw his searing performance in the prison drama Chopper. Although the director was concerned about how big and beefy Bana was in the film and wondered if he made a poor casting decision. Alas, once he saw how fit Bana was in real life, he felt relieved. And while on the topic of weight gain, Garrett Hedlund, who was cast as Patroclus in the movie just 1 month after moving to Hollywood to pursue a career, gained 30 pounds to credibly portray the historical figure. Once the cast was in place and Warner Bros. Had granted Petersen a hefty $175 to $185 million budget, principal photography on Troy officially commenced on April 22, 2003, and lasted until December of that same year. According to Gone Girl author Gillian Flynn, who was an Entertainment Weekly reporter at the time, the budget would swell to more more than $200 million due to several unplanned production delays and disruptions. The 8-month filming schedule entailed a massive logistical undertaking that spanned multiple continents. For example, the city of Troy was constructed at Fort Ricasoli on the island of Malta in the Mediterranean, a location also used for Gladiator, and additional scenes were filmed on the cliffs of Molina, located in the north of Malta, and the small island of Camino, situated between Malta and Gozo. The exterior walls of Troy were manufactured thousands of miles away in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. In addition to filming in real locations in Malta and Mexico, and plans to shoot in Morocco, filming also took place in various movie studios and backlots in England, including Ealing Studios in London and Shepperton Studios in Surrey. In addition to multiple locations around the world, the humongous production consisted of roughly 1,300 background extras, at least 300 of which were transported from Bulgaria to film scenes in Mexico. Another major hurdle that production had to overcome involved the escalation of the US-Iraq War in 2003. Several scenes for Troy were initially slated to be filmed in Morocco. However, when tensions began to increase with the Middle East, Warner Bros. Decided to move the production from Morocco to Mexico in February 2003 to avoid al-Qaeda terrorist threats. Transporting the sets, props, and extras from North Africa to North America was a logistical nightmare that delayed the schedule even longer and ended up increasing the cost of the movie considerably. If the emergency relocation wasn't bad enough, the 1,300 extras sent to Mexico had to undergo a 3-week training period in 100-degree heat, causing many of them to faint from the harsh conditions. According to Bidowin.org, the Bulgarian extras on the set of Troy were treated even more inhumanely. Here's one extra's account. "We kept trying to get a break, to get some water or find shade, but there was no shade. So we were simply sitting there, killing scorpions and all sorts of nasty centipedes. The horses were in the shade, but we weren't. They had tents. We didn't. We covered ourselves with the shields and fell asleep." Once the Bulgarian extras realized they were earning $12 per day compared to the Mexican extras' wage of $40 per day, both less than the horses were paid, mind you, a 3-week strike took place which further delayed production. Filming only commenced after the Bulgarian extras were given a pay raise of $10 per day. Meanwhile, Pitt earned a hefty $17.5 million for starring as Achilles in the film. One of the costliest crises that took place while filming Troy occurred in Baja, California. The Category 2 Hurricane Marty hit and caused flooding and major damage in Baja before moving to mainland Mexico in the fall of 2003. By all accounts, Hurricane Marty destroyed the set of Troy, constructed in Cabo, which halted the production and delayed filming for several weeks. In addition to the set being wiped out by the hurricane force winds and rain, Brad Pitt's personal residence was also left in ruins. Pitt was reportedly so exhausted by the filming process that he woke up at 4 a.m. to find his home torn apart by Hurricane Marty and simply just went back to sleep. The storm also toppled a house accommodating roughly 1,000 extras. If that wasn't upsetting enough, in late September 2003, shortly after Hurricane Marty reached landfall and damaged the constructed sets, 6 security guards on Troy were arrested by the local police for stealing a 4-wheel Honda ATV, a chainsaw, and an air compressor used by the production. The arrested guards claimed that they had not been paid for their services since Hurricane Marty ravaged the set, and they took the items as compensation. Believe it or not, a second hurricane hit the movie set in Mexico, but it came during the final week of production and didn't affect much since the movie and the footage were already captured. Of course, it's impossible to talk about Troy without mentioning the intense, big-scale battle scenes that take place in the film. For his part, Brad Pitt famously spent 6 months undergoing a grueling training regimen to shape his body in the mold of a Greek god. Pitt claimed the process was torturous because he was forced to quit smoking and get in shape. Meanwhile, the male cast members had to have their chests waxed and shaved daily to maintain continuity. During the battle scene in which Patroclus dresses up as Achilles, Brad Pitt can be spotted somewhere in the background, yet when Hector slashes his throat and removes Patroclus' helmet, Garrett Hedlund is the one inside the costume. One of the coolest anecdotes from the set includes Pitt and co-star Eric Bana making a friendly wager before filming took place. Both Pitt and Bana refused to use stunt doubles for the fight scenes, and the two actors agreed to pay each other money every time they accidentally hit each other for real while filming. According to the lore, Pitt and Bana bet $50 for every glancing blow and $100 for every painful hit. At the end of production, Pitt struck Bana so many times that he ended up paying his co-star $750 for the damage incurred. Meanwhile, Bana didn't owe Brad Pitt a single dollar. Speaking of the fight scenes, the grandest irony of the entire production came when Pitt suffered a major injury while filming a fight sequence that delayed production for several months. Pitt, who plays Achilles in the movie, actually tore his left Achilles tendon while filming an action scene. At the time, Pitt was slightly embarrassed